Eddington is Ari Aster's new movie. I've been very excited for this movie. I remember seeing set photos for this in March 2024 of Joaquin Phoenix wearing like a mask and a sheriff's outfit, standing outside of a grocery store with grocery bags. And I was like, what is this movie about? There were all sorts of weird threads. Have you heard anything about this movie before I told you about it or no?
I didn't hear anything about this movie before you told me.
Do you know anything about Ari Aster, the director of this movie, who made Hereditary, Midsommar? He made big movies for A24, big horror movies, which kind of like prompted them to be this studio known for not just doing niche movies, but doing pretty good horror movies that can kind of compare with studio level horror.
I was never a huge horror movie person. I was more into like drama and comedy until I was introduced to more recently, but I could definitely see that this person was a horror director before, because although this wasn't a horror movie, I felt like there was a lot of suspense throughout it that kind of left you feeling on edge the whole time because you weren't quite sure what was going to happen.
Yeah, this is tonally really good. And I actually got lucky. I got a chance to read the script before this came out. So I knew the plot, which, you know, I was still interested in seeing it. But then when I actually watched the movie, it was so great. It was like honestly kind of seeing it for the first time in that Ari Aster's visual style and the sound and the music he chooses is so great and really defines the film. It really does build suspense. There's a really great shot where they're on a plane and it's just pushing through the plane, the camera, and the music just keeps building. And he uses music so well in this film, including the use of Katy Perry's Firework, which was really great. Just a really great sense of black comedy in this movie. I really enjoyed it. So this movie is set in 2020 in the town of Eddington. It's a COVID-19 Western, as Ari Aster described, and it's about a sheriff played by Joaquin Phoenix, Joe Cross. He is married to Louise Cross, who's played by Emma Stone. She's his wife. She's a doll maker who kind of keeps to herself, who lives at home with him and her mother. Pedro Pascal plays the town's mayor. And there are also two deputies in this film. Deputy Michael, who's played by Michael Ward, and Deputy Guy, played by Luke Grimes. Austin Butler is also in this movie as Vernon Jefferson Peake. He is this kind of weird, radical guy who has a small part in the film, but it's still a pretty influential part. I think in the script he was supposed to be like 60, but I think they changed that. I mean, they definitely did, but that was the original idea. So this movie to me is very interesting because unlike Ari Aster's first two movies, which were clearly horror, like niche weird horror movies, and then Beau is Afraid, his third movie, which is an insane David Lynch type 3-hour surrealist, just can't even define that movie. On Wikipedia it says it's a tragic comedy, but to me that's just, you know, like a lot of people who really love film will love that movie. It's very over the top, very weird, full of horror, comedy, everything is thrown in there. It's a fever dream of a movie. I really liked Beau is Afraid, and I really like Eddington. Like, when I look at all of his films, it's kind of like a Nolan or a Robert Eggers run, where there really hasn't been a movie that, you know, hasn't stuck with me. Like, this movie has its own identity. It's really good, in my opinion. And A24 keeps giving him money. They gave him, I think, $35 million to make Beau is Afraid. That movie lost money. I mean, it makes sense the movie lost money. It isn't really a film built for anyone except like the Letterboxd crowd to me, or people who really like movies. But Eddington is also a movie that is pretty divisive, and it makes sense it's divisive. It's violent. It deals a lot with American politics, deals with a very controversial time in recent American history. But I think Ari Aster uses this movie to say a lot about America. And I just thought it was really entertaining. And for a movie, to me, it's saying something and it's entertaining. And that's why I go to the movies. What did you think of Eddington?
I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was really relevant to the times and to talk about. I feel like it was obviously very political. And at first, they were trying to make the main character, the sheriff,
Joaquin Phoenix, Joe Cross.
Yeah, they were trying to make him, you almost empathize for him.
Yeah, and Joaquin is really good, by the way. Like in this movie, he's so good, and Emma Stone is really, like, they have a really good dynamic. He's a good dynamic with everyone in this movie, but like you were saying, Joaquin Phoenix is so good at like playing empathetic characters, but also characters you might not like or might hate.
Yeah, and at first I was like, wait, he's like doing these things wrong, but why am I kind of rooting for him? And so later in the movie things start to shift and start to pick up, and then obviously you're like, oh wait, he sucks. But I think from the start it's meant to kind of talk about how like both sides, like kind of both political parties, both do things wrong, and I think it's meant to shine a light on how, for example, the left sometimes can be very performative about certain things, and they're not actually taking the time to listen. They're rather screaming in people's faces, this is what you should be doing. And this is coming from somebody who agrees with a lot of the things they're saying, but I think that they're going about it in the completely wrong way, and like there's a lot of better ways to do things like that, and I think the movie does a good job shining light on that, especially because, for example, a lot of the activists are these white people who are trying to like basically scream in the face of people of color, this is how you should be reacting to this situation that involves them. But I also think it's good that it makes you a bit more empathetic for maybe somebody who's on the right at the beginning, so it kind of shows you a different side to them where you might be disagreeing with some of his actions, but then obviously it spirals and you see that he is the villain. So I think it does a good job saying that both sides, both parties do things wrong, and that nobody is completely perfect and nobody is 100% a villain all of the time.
Yeah, it overall does such a good job at kind of like bringing that satire from like a filmmaking perspective too. It's such a well-crafted, beautiful movie that people might like see as exploitative, but I didn't see it like that. I was just in love with the way he shot this movie and the way he reveals certain things. Like mostly just the tonal shift towards the middle is like crazy. Almost like the movie Parasite, where the first half is kind of like a complete different movie. It's not that it's a complete different movie, but there's almost no violence. I won't really spoil anything, but the first half is not violent at all. And then there's a complete tonal shift in the middle where there's gunshots. And I mean, you know what I'm talking about without spoiling anything, but that moment everyone in the theater was like, oh shit. And the movie just totally shifts and it becomes very over the top and very violent, but it still is very interesting to watch, and it's still saying something, and it's satirizing America, but I loved it.
I felt like I didn't know it was going to happen basically the whole movie, especially from the big tonal shift in the middle. I was kind of on the edge of my seat, and I did not expect that to happen, and I didn't expect the events that followed to play out. And so I think that comes back to the horror aspect of, I was just feeling very on edge and feeling like I had no idea how the movie was going to end, whereas Andrew had already read the script, so he knew it was coming. So how did you feel like with those things, knowing what was coming?
Well, really just the way it was designed, like I said, with the score and the visuals, it was so interesting to watch. And it was suspenseful still. So that to me it was still very entertaining, and I love the way it was done. The thing to me is, like with movies like this, because it's a very weird film, and I say weird because it's this COVID-19 Western. Like, there aren't even Westerns really anymore. Like, what is a Western? It's like about, well, the old ones were usually cowboys, gunslingers, outlaws, sheriffs, but the themes are always the same. It's justice, revenge, survival, individualism, the taming of the wilderness, and the conflict between law and disorder, all of which Eddington kind of captures, along with the desert landscapes. But it's a modern Western, and it's very much an Ari Aster movie. Again, there's a lot of weird little things. There is this moment near the end, which wasn't in the script, which is just a cherry on top. I won't get into what that is because it's a spoiler, but it's such a dark, twisted tragedy of a movie. Like, it really is tragic. The ending is not happy. I do like how some of the characters' resolutions feel kind of... I feel like most people get a kind of just resolution in the end that feels like it fits with the characters. But overall, I do want to see more movies like this. Movies that are entertaining, that have something to say, and are kind of just doing something different. This isn't a cookie cutter movie. I like Ari Aster kind of even moving away from horror, because he still brings that creepy uneasiness into a Western black comedy movie. And it's also satirical. It's really good. I really enjoyed this. And as someone who did read the script, I did think the script was very political, and I thought I didn't know how it would translate, but watching it is such a different experience than reading it. It really has that uneasy Ari Aster visual style, which combined with the way he does black comedy is so perfect. I really had a lot of fun watching this. So let me know what you guys think of Eddington. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.